Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the EU's landmark Euro 7 car regulation. And let me tell you, this is a huge deal. It's a massive new rulebook that's about to change not just what comes out of your car's exhaust, but also parts of your car you've probably never even thought twice about.
So let's kick things off with a question that gets right to the heart of what this new law is all about. For decades, we've been laser-focused on the engine and the tailpipe as the bad guys when it comes to pollution. But Euro 7 is asking us to look, well, a lot closer.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get into what Euro 7 actually is. Then, we'll explore these new types of pollutants being regulated. We'll also look at the new rules for EV batteries, how all this is going to be enforced, and finally, the big one, when these changes actually hit the road.
Okay, first things first. What exactly is this new regulation that has the entire auto industry buzzing?
At its core, Euro 7 is basically a single, unified set of rules for pretty much everything on wheels, from your hatchback to a giant truck. But look, this is way more than just another minor update. The big goals here are to seriously cut down pollution from all sources. And, this is key, to boost our trust as consumers by making sure cars stay clean and reliable for their entire lifespan.
Now this is where things get really interesting, even a little radical. Think about it. For like 100 years, the car world has been obsessed with the engine. What Euro 7 does is force a huge shift in thinking by expanding the very definition of car pollution, taking it way beyond what just comes out of the tailpipe.
Right, so we all know about exhaust emissions, those gases like nitrogen oxides that we've been regulating for years. But now Euro 7 is bringing in strict limits on something called non-exhaust emissions. And this is a total game changer, because these new rules, they apply to every vehicle. And yes, that includes fully electric ones.
And this number right here, it perfectly explains why this is so important. As our engines have gotten cleaner and as more of us switch to electric, the pollution from these other sources has just exploded as a percentage of the total. In fact, the EU thinks that by 2050, this stuff will make up a whopping 90% of all the nasty particles coming from road transport.
So what are we talking about here? Well, first up, brake dust. You know that black, sooty powder you see caked on your car's wheels? That's not just dirt. It's actually made of tiny particles that fly into the air every single time you hit the brakes. And for the very first time, Euro 7 is putting a legal cap on how much of this stuff a new car can produce.
And it's not just the brakes. The same idea applies to your tires. I mean, every time they wear it down, they're shedding these tiny bits of rubber and other compounds, basically microplastics, all over our roads. And that stuff eventually washes into our soil and water. So yeah, Euro 7 is setting the stage to measure and limit this source of pollution too.
So, since these non-exhaust rules apply even to EVs, it's pretty clear they aren't getting a free pass. Let's dig into what else Euro 7 has in mind for them, because this regulation is tackling one of the single biggest worries people have about buying an electric car.
I mean, it's the million-dollar question for anyone even thinking about going electric, right? How is that battery going to hold up over time? Well, instead of just having to trust the marketing hype, Euro 7 actually sets a mandatory, legally binding performance standard for battery durability. So here's the deal. For a regular passenger car, the battery has to hold at least 80% of its original juice after 5 years or 100,000 kilometers, whichever comes first. That number drops a little bit to 72% after 8 years or 160,000 kilometers. This gives a solid legal baseline, which is huge for giving people confidence, especially if you're looking to buy a used EV.
Okay, that is a lot of new rules. So you're probably wondering, how is anyone going to make sure a car is actually following these rules? Not just when it rolls off the lot, but years down the road. Well, the regulation has a pretty clever two-part answer.
First up is something called the Onboard Monitoring System, or OBM. The best way to think about this is like a little watchdog living inside your car's computer. It'll use the car's own sensors to constantly track exhaust emissions in real time. And if it spots that the car is polluting way more than it's supposed to, bang, it'll trigger a warning to let the driver know a repair is needed.
Then there's the second piece of the puzzle, a brand new idea called the Environmental Vehicle Passport. Think of it like a nutritional label for your car's environmental impact. It's a digital record that will clearly show the car's official emission limits, its electric range, and even the health of its battery over time. It's all about making this info super transparent and easy for anyone to find.
Okay, so the big question, when does all of this actually happen? When will we see these cars on the road? Well, it's not all happening at once. It's going to be phased in over the next few years. So, get your calendars out.
The first big date is November 29, 2026. From that day on, any totally new model of car or van that wants to be sold in the EU has to meet these Euro 7 standards. Then, exactly 1 year later, November 2027, the rule gets bigger. It applies to all new cars and vans being sold, even if the model has been around for a while. And you'll see the same pattern for trucks and buses, just kicking off in 2028 and 2029.
So there's really no other way to say it. Euro 7 is a massive shift. It's aiming for cleaner air by going after pollution sources we've pretty much ignored for decades, and it's demanding that our EVs last longer. But, as it completely rewrites the rulebook on what a clean car even is, it does leave us with one final really important question about the future of driving for all of us.